My name is Ricky Holden. Uh, Today I'm going to be doing a presentation on problem-based learning, the theory of problem-based learning, and a basic lesson in learning. I'd like to give you a little introduction to problem-based learning. This comes from a statement from the 2004 book, Problem-Based Learning, What and How Do Students Learn? Basically, problem-based learning is a student-centered instruction in which the student learns about a subject through experience of solving an open-ended problem. As we get on a little later in the lesson here, I'll explain that a little more. The agenda we're going to be covering today is the meaning of problem-based learning, constructive, constructivism and problem-based learning, the demands of implementing problem-based learning, and the limitations of problem-based learning. Then we're going to do a quick review and I'll try to answer any questions that maybe have. Our learning objective for today is recognizing what the problem-based learning is, see how it compares to constructivism, and understanding the demands of implementing it. Given the information that I'll provide, hopefully the understanding of the what, when, and whys of problem-based learning exist. And then we will hopefully be able to recognize when problem-based learning is or can be utilized to improve or satisfy the applied training. The meaning of problem-based learning. Basically, problem-based learning, as I spoke earlier, is student-centered learning. This is usually done in small groups to start with. It always has a facilitator or a tutor or a teacher's aide, as a lot of people know of, to guide the students rather than standing in front of the classroom teaching. This allows a small group to organize its focus. It also allows that group to lay out a plan for solving a problem. So it is a very good vehicle for developing problem solving skills. It also has the ability to have new knowledge uh, obtained through self-directed learning. And as we all know, self-directed learning is one of the greater skills to learn because it will last you through a lifetime. Constructivism and problem-based learning. Uh, Problem-based learning addresses the needs to promote lifelong learning through the process of inquiring and constructive learning. PBL basically can be considered a constructive approach to instruction. It emphasizes collaboration and directs and self-directed learning and being supported by flexible teaching scaffolding. Basically, what this all lays out to is the learners are presented with a problem. They develop the possible theories or hypotheses to solve that problem. Together, they can identify the learning issues to be researched out of the small group atmosphere, and then they can construct a shared model or basically the problem solved. Facilitators a lot of times will provide the scaffolding that's needed to do this. After the initial teamwork, students work independently. So it's not all group based. It does build those individual skills, but it also allows you to work in a group. So after they've worked there independently, they've worked their part of the problem, they've done their own research, they come back together as a group. They regroup, they discuss their findings, they come up with a common solution to the problem. Then they'll refine their initial explanations based on what they learned. The demands of implementing problem-based learning, basically implemented in schools and universities, is a demanding process that requires a lot of resources, a lot of planning, and organization. Uh, Azure lays out basically 12 steps for implementing this in the book Pure PBL. First thing was to prepare your facility for the change. Again, we're used to standing in front of a classroom, giving a lesson, where problem-based learning is more student-centered, oriented, individualized to that person or small group to get them through what they need to do. Uh, So basically, you're going to have to establish new curriculum committees and working groups to get these type of changes implemented and processed through. Designing the new PBL curriculum and defining educational outcomes. Our standard old style of standing in front of the classroom, teaching a lesson, giving a test, see what knowledge was absorbed, study this material, doesn't really work in a problem based learning atmosphere. It's a whole different new approach that has to be taken. Uh, Basically, if you're trying to do this, seek the advice of the experts in PBL. You should never try to go out on your own and try to establish a PBL curriculum. There's a lot of planning, organizing, and management that goes into it. There's training PBL facilitators, and then there's defining the objectives of those facilitators. That way, everybody, even the small groups that are broken out, are still getting the same objective that should be taught, but it's just coming in a different fashion. You want to then introduce the students to the PBL program. It's going to be different for the student too. What I mean by that is the students are adjusted and used to learning in that teacher student atmosphere, where with this particular program, they're going to have a lot more one on one with the facilitator, teacher, instructor. They're going to be working closely with their small group that they're working in, and then they're going to be responsible for having a piece or a part of that problem solving effort. Uh, Use the three learnings to support the delivery of the problem based learning. We always want to change the assessments to suit that PBL curriculum. We want to encourage feedback from the students and the teaching staff. This is not just a one way, it's going to be a two-way street there whenever we're trying to do this. We want to take those students, allow them to have the input and the feedback as they're learning, and you're going, as the instructor or leader or the teacher, facilitator, or what position you're working in, you're going to see that growth. Managing learning resources and facilitating that support and self-directed learning. Again, self-directed learning is the key point in PBL. You have to have that motivation to initiate learning, to be able to want to know what you're wanting to get out of this. And then, as always, with any type of learning system, you're going to continue to evaluate and make changes as necessary. Uh, the limitations of problem-based learning, it is very time consuming. Normally, a teacher gets into a classroom, they may have a pupil or a group of students for an hour uh, to get through, say, two, three chapters. Well, with problem-based learning, you're not going to be able to accelerate those students through because it is a self-paced type self-centered atmosphere for those students. So you're going to have to allow them the time it's going to take, but the concepts and the approaches that they're going to develop and learn out of this is going to greatly enhance them in the future, and it's also going to increase as they go through the learning process. The time consumption will go down some. Traditional assumptions of the students. Again, we fall back to that student teacher role. Normally, a student comes to a classroom, sits down, and waits to be presented the information. Uh, this isn't that way. This is the students are given a problem, uh, given a baseline and a guidance and a scaffolding to move through that problem. They're assigned into a small group, and then they do their independent research and then come back together and collaborate to be able to solve the problem. Uh, Roles of the instructors very different from what our traditional study is. Beware of that. Pupil evaluation. It may not be a standardized test that you throw out there to evaluate these students. It may be the end problem getting there, and maybe they need to write a report or a paper on the process and procedure that it took them to get them there. Uh, and this can definitely be an information overload for some students, especially in the beginning whenever we start laying problem-based learning into effect. Working in group settings is very new to most people. Being able to approach these training guidelines and give an outcome that is suitable. That information will take some time, but most can get through it if they're just patient. All right, a little bit of review summary here. Basically, what I told you was that the meaning of problem based training, broke it down, gave you a little bit of background and history on problem based training. We did a constructivism and problem based learning comparison. Uh, I gave you a little bit of information on the demands of implementing problem based training and then pose some of the limitations. Uh, I want to open it up now for any questions. I know this is a video broadcast, so please post your questions at the bottom of the forum, and I'll be happy to try to answer any of them that come through. Thank you for your time, and I do want to show you the reference page here of where I got all this information. Some very good learning skills out there, learning tables, very good books, especially the problem-based learning in medical and beyond. That was an amazing read to just learn how this problem-based learning was developed. Well, thank you for your time and have a good day.